Welcome everybody, welcome back. Wow, it's been a couple of weeks out. I've missed you, hopefully as much as you've missed me. Oh wow, I hope you're okay everyone. Wow, it's been an absolutely epic couple of weeks. I've had, well, let's not get into it just now, but yeah, we've got a really important show coming up tonight. We've got loads of things ready and planned, and I've been working on a few things behind the scenes to get a bit of a different show together tonight. It's a little bit of a on the fly, but it's going to be good. So what we got is I've set up over in the lab area. This is where we're going to be rocking a little bit later on. So we're going to be going over to the lab area after the SHTF Intel, where we'll be just checking out what we got. Let's have a look. So, in terms of what we got going on with the agenda, we're going to have a quick welcome intro. We're pretty much done on that. We're going to get straight into it because there's a lot to get through and there's lots going on out there, as you all know. So we'll do the SHTF Intel report and the SHTF Scenarios tonight. I'm going to be talking about largely grid down scenario type stuff because that's what's coming up probably soonest. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to show you some of the things that I've got prepared and I've been working on the last couple of weeks for us in terms of, and for you in heating, lighting predominantly, right? That's the first thing we're going to look at this week. We're going to look at heating and lighting in a grid down scenario, right? And what your options are. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a insight into some of the things that I've got, and you can get really easily to get hooked up with your battery bank, with your critical stuff, ways of heating your property, and so on. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I've got radio mic and this mic, so let us know if everything's going all right as we go through the show. Maybe a bit of a Howls and Growls, go through people's questions and stuff, and then we'll have an after party, as we like to do later on. The end of the show. So we got our after party on Discord. Don't forget, if you haven't done so yet, links are in the description. You can join Discord completely free of charge, so definitely do that, and we'll be rocking in there. And of course, if you are a VIP patron supporter, then of course you'll be in the VIP session later on, where we have our voice chat one-to-one. So thank you. I must say, what can I say, please give the video a like if you're just getting in now. Thank you to everybody who filled out the poll. It's actually still running now. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Anyone who's live right now, do check the live chat, because there's a poll I set up before we went live earlier on today, so that we've had about 20 people vote so far, so we can have a little look. So the vote was, and I'll reveal the answers in a sec, but essentially we were asking, what is your number one SHTF concern? So I've just wrote these out during the countdown of the tunes. Whoever wasn't banging to the tunes on the intro, shame on you. It's been like too long since I've heard my own music I made, so it's like, oh, it's quite nice sometimes when you haven't heard it for a while, and it's like, it's almost like you didn't, you know, you get to see it through the eyes, you get to hear it through the ears of someone who didn't make it. So here we go then. Military conflict, economic collapse, online censorship, or digital IDs and central bank digital currencies. These were the four options on the poll that we did earlier today, and you've been voting, and I'll give you the answers of what is your number one SHTF concern. So the thing that you're most worried about, if you like, is kind of what we're talking about, right? But it's just to get some insight as to you know, what people think are the things that are going to bite them in the you-know-what the quickest. So we'll let the poll go for a little bit longer, so you can, if you're live now, you can pop onto the live chat and you'll see it there on the chat window, and you can vote. At the top there'll be a blue poll, and put your vote in, and we'll be catching up with the answers that later on. Adam Edwin's in the house. Hey peeps. And all of the scenarios will coincide. Yes, absolutely. Connie Richards is loving music. Hello, my absolute Gorgemeister. Super missing you. I know you've been up to stuff and I've been up to stuff, but we are catching up. Seriously, headbanging tune. Thank you, my darling Sandy. Great to see you. Let's have a look. Oh, Kaza in the house. We got Daily Survival, who was first in the chat. Lovely to see you, Daily Survival. I hope everything's going all right your end. And there's our beautiful Noelle Marie. Hello, my darling. She's working but listening at the same time, usually this time of the day. And of course, we're going live at 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So let's have a little look. So there, Noelle Marie's at work. She'll be listening in. Thank you, everyone, for being a Netrum Design as well. Great to see your name in the chat earlier on when you popped up. So it's lovely to have you all here with me. So yeah, like I say, we've got quite a lot going on. I've certainly missed you. I hope you've missed me too. Absence makes the heart grow fond and all that. So that's the idea. I must quickly though, before we go any further, would like to say please hit the like button and thank you for those that are supporting me, because I'm 100% independent, super. I won't even get into that, but no sponsors, no networks, no nothing. So would be really appreciate those people who have helped me to stay online so far as we are. So ways to help if you want to keep me rocking: sigmaprepper.com/donate, all links in the description, streamlabs.com/sigmaprepper. Although this channel isn't monetized, it's too new and fledgling, you can still do super chats with Streamlabs and they'll pop up ding-a-ling-a-ling and I'll give you a shout out. Really appreciate it. Of course, the usual Patreon and PayPal as well. Talking of Patreon, great way to support me. Got loads coming up on that. Free gifts, you got mugs, you got stickers, you got all sorts of stuff, plus behind the scenes footage which I'll be shooting this week. Walks and talks have been a nightmare because of the weather. It's been raining every day for like 2 weeks. So loads coming up, and I've got loads of secret stuff as well. So to these people, thank you so very much for helping me go for as little as 20 cents a day. Thank you so much to these people. Really appreciate you for keeping me rocking. So go and check out the link in the description, patreon.com/sigmaprepper if you'd like to help me stay alive. And for all those that are, really appreciate you and couldn't do it without you. Links in description. These are the ways you can help. And if nothing else, the bare minimum that costs you nothing is just to put a comment in if you're watching this afterwards. And of course, hit the like button and subscribe. So let's get out of here then. Right. There's my darling, my fave peeps. There's my fave perps. Also, whoosh, gotta say a big welcome. Kick your shoes off, sit yourself down. New subscribers in the house, got 4 on the board up there. Thank you so much for joining us and being a subscriber, and really appreciate you joining us. So hopefully everybody in the chat, as usual, will make you feel super welcome. So what we're going to do then, we're going to burn through because we've got so much to get through. So what we're going to do then is we're going to get into the SHTF Intel report. We'll have a little look at what's going on. Obviously, most people know what's going on. It's epic, and a lot of it I can't even talk about. Obviously, those that know, I've had a life of shadow banning, basically. So, it doesn't seem to matter. I get banned no matter what. So, cheers, everybody. Love to you all. Love, peace, and progress to the pack. So then we'll get into SHTF Scenarios, and like I say, tonight we've got a special night. We've got the lab cam set up, so we'll be checking out over there, and I'll be going over some bits and pieces with you, and we'll be getting into heating and lighting in a grid down scenario with batteries and connections and do's and don'ts and so on. So there's loads coming up, so don't go anywhere. But in the meantime, I think we need to get into the SHTF Intel so we can see what has been hitting the fan. Here we go. Stand by. Good call, Sandy. Deep breath. Definitely deep breath needed. Right. So this is what we're going to be going through today for the 10th of November 2022. SHTF Intel with your host, Andy, the Sigma Prepper. So we're going to be having a little look. We don't have any tier because YouTube doesn't like her, it turns out. Who would have thunk it, eh? All the stuff that people get to say around YouTube, but old Muggins here doesn't get to say anything, and you know. So we're gonna have to gloss over that. Latest top stories. We'll just have a little look at the headlines. Like I say, we don't want to spend too much time on it because you pretty much know the things that are going to be hitting us. And then, of course, grid down, blackouts. I've got some things I want to share with you on that one. And then we'll just have a look at like solar flares and economics and a few other bits and pieces. So that's the idea. Right. So Perp says her brain's been hitting the fan today. Needed hugs with the dog when I got home. Absolutely. I tell you what, there's nothing better than hugs with Hugo. That's a good name, actually, isn't it? Hugs with Hugo. Right, should we do it then? Should we just fly straight in there and just get through it and out the other side, and then we can get into the juicy stuff over in the lab? So we're just over here on BBC News, just have a little gloss over. Ukraine claims major gains as Russia exits Kherson, so they got that going on. France suspends Italy migrant deal in boat row. You've got loads of stuff with migration going on, and migrants turning up here, there, and everywhere, and people turning them away, people bringing them in. It's like all the holiday inns as well, and you know, all the hotels that are being bought out by the government to house immigrants and things. There's loads of that going on, particularly in the UK and parts of Europe. Power outages as rare November storm hits Florida. Seeing a lot of this power outages, and you'll see as well, there's more of that coming with some other news. So yeah, Alex Jones to pay an extra $470 million. What an absolute load of you-know-what. I mean, look at it all, right? So, I don't even think I'm even, you know, I don't even think I can bear going through that. So here's G Captain, right? So let's have a quick look and see what's going on with shipping, because there's a few stories I've pulled out here. China's year-end exports surge in doubt as global demand falters. And so, of course, this time of year, we expect there to be some significant increase in shipping with the Christmas season, Thanksgiving and things, and all that coming up. But as it turns out, maybe not. So I've been reporting on this for a few months now, where we've had places in America as well, where we're down like maybe 30, 40% in terms of throughput. So Christmas disappeared. That's been their plan for a long time. For those that know, Obama mentioned that, didn't he? Just before leaving office. I think we're about 4 years behind, basically. But the idea was that he said this will be the last Christmas and laughed. So we know that they've been slowly but surely removing it from everything, right? That's how it seems anyway. You know, all the wrapping papers, like, it's not like the cards. There's not really anything to do with traditional Christmas anymore, if you've probably noticed that. But yeah, so again, America were down 11 to 16% November. It was more than that in October. Where is it here? Slump is particularly evident in developed economies. Shipments to the United States fell 12.2. See, that doesn't include the other side, though. That's interesting. This is just more making it sound better than it is, isn't it? But yeah, it's basically down, down, down. It's not a good look. So also on G Captain here, we got Russian oil cap uncertainty sparks fears of ships stranded at sea. So this is to do with, I mean, this happened like a while ago, right? But London, Brussels, I mean, as in this happened like 2021 as well, where there was loads of ships stuck out at sea. But let's see what this is about. Group of 7 G7, which includes the United States, Britain, Germany and France, agreed in September to enforce a low price on sales of Russian oil. US officials said the move, which is due to start on December the 5th, was aimed at allowing it to continue to flow, heading off a potential price shock after total EU bans were ratified in June. So, in a nutshell, there are so many things going on that are all leading to the potential for fuel shortages, gas. It's basically energy wars is what we're seeing. But there's an element of it that seems somewhat coordinated, and it's too stupid to be stupid, right? In terms of when you add up all of the things that have gone wrong, all the things that are happening with the supply chain, that includes the things to do with the energy shortages. But it's not even really shortages. This is the funny thing. Oh, I don't even know if we can get into that, but anyway, you know. 42% of Gen Z diagnosed with a mental health condition, survey reveals. For those that didn't know. FBI announces enhanced firearm background checks for young adults to start next week. That's starting on 14th of November. So as of then, I think it's 18 to 20-year-olds. Those under the age of 21 will receive an initial delay that could last about 2 weeks. This delay is supposedly to allow the FBI to contact local law enforcement, and check with state databases to enhance the background check system's effectiveness. So you've got that coming up in a few days, and then we've got a National Guard here to activate cybersecurity teams in 14 states ahead of midterm elections. So this was on November the 6th, but for those that have been following what's been going on, you'll know that, as per usual, we've got you-know-whats. DEFCON level then today, we've got, it's funny actually, it's not funny at all, but I mean Tia, the tactical intelligence assistant, she mentioned about 2 months ago now that it would go to, her prediction was that it would go to DEFCON 2, right? Now, when she said that, about 3 months ago that was now, when she first said it, right? Only one of these areas was DEFCON 2, which was the Africa Command Alert. DEFCON 2, which is fast pace, codename, right? And that was it. But since then, just as Tia said 2 months ago, in fact in the last week, you've got the Live Regional Central Command, which is basically what her prediction was, has indeed gone to DEFCON 2. Live Regional Cyber Command remains DEFCON 3. You've got European Command DEFCON 2, which was Tia's last report, where she declared again that the European Command had gone DEFCON 2. And then you've got the Indo-Pacific Command has gone DEFCON 2. The Northern Command still remains DEFCON 3. And the Southern Command DEFCON 3. And also the Regional Space Command. So this is quite significant, you know, there's like 3 more have been added on regions of DEFCON 2, just as Tia said. So that's basically to round that up, just in case you weren't aware and hadn't been following. So let's get into, next up then, I think we'll go straight to the we'll go to the solar flares and thing. We'll go into economics, and then we'll get into some blackouts. In fact, we're going to switch this up. We'll do the solar flares and quakes first. So let's do that. Boom. So here we are on the watches then. We'll just see what's going on with the Earth changes. Study shows how Earth-Sun distance dramatically influences annual weather cycles. Oh, who would have thunk it, eh? Who would have thunk it? The distance of the sun having an effect. You wouldn't know though, because all of the climatological studies, none of them even mention the word the sun, solar. You can do a Control F, like find on this page. It doesn't mention the sun in all of the climate models with the climate change and stuff. There's zero reference to the sun at all, and yet without the sun we wouldn't have any weather at all. We would be an ice bowl. 100% of the weather therefore only exists because of the sun, but yet it's never mentioned in the entire... Anyway, make it out what you will. Record rains hit California, leaving 1 person goner and several missing. We've got increased activity under Villarrica volcano. The alert level has been raised to yellow there in Chile. Got a massive water spurt forming there in Dakar, Turkey. Of course, this subtropical storm Nicole is forecast to strengthen into a hurricane before reaching Florida. So you got that coming up. That was November the 8th. I think it's already rocking. Last time I checked. Just have a look if we can get more into it. But like I say, we've got so much to get into tonight. We're going to need to get through it all. So we have had a big couple of earthquakes as well, actually. There was a 7.0. In fact, I think, does it mention it here? There's a 6.6 here in Nepal, which obviously did some damage. So there definitely seems to be some earth changes going on. They've only got 34 earthquakes showing on the map at the moment, though. Which is about average, to be honest. Looks like there's a big old swarm over here. Look, this isn't particularly typical. I mean, Alaska is, but this part, not always. So But other than that, it's not looking too bad. So solar ham, then we'll have a quick look at the sun. We've got 4 named sunspots currently on the visible disk. So we'll look at those and we can see the only one in question here is this beta gamma magnetic class. It's the only one that's got any chance of doing anything. M class flare, 10%. It's already popped one off yesterday. Sorry, what I'm talking about, 7th Monday or whatever, Tuesday. Just about, because it's like past midnight, right? But yeah, that's AR3141, which looks like it's the big chunky center disc job. It is, look. So yeah, you got this, which is coming round to being pretty much Earth facing. So that's coming round. It is listed red there. But other than that, it's been pretty calm. You can see here with the main KP index. Let's have a quick look on this one though, the space weather conditions overall, and we'll just get a... It's pretty uneventful, to be honest. Obviously, as I've been reporting for several months now, the sunspot count is way over predicted values by double. It's basically a year early. That's all. I say that's all, but I mean, that's my prediction. Well, that's not my prediction. That's my hypothesis, because you can see here it's basically following that curve, but it's just too early. It's starting the new cycle early is what I would say is happening here, because they're more than double some of these as we go back. Yeah, more than double what the values would be this time of year, and the radio flux progression equals that as well. They're very tightly linked. So yeah, I mean, what can you say? It's definitely something is increasing. So let's get rid of that lot then. And then what I'm going to do is we'll do some quick economics, and then we'll get into the... And then we'll do the grid down blackout stuff, right? That's the plan. Please hit the like button. Says Daily Survival, which YouTube seemed to have banned that comment. I just unbanned it for you, Daily Survival, because YouTube doesn't want people to see you say, please hit the like button. Because you know how much YouTube hates Sigma Prepper. Or just me personally, is what it is. Hey, Unfair, in the house. Great to see you. I hope you've done the poll. Don't forget, we've got a poll rocking in the chat tonight. You'll see a blue strip at the top of the live chat, and there's a poll there. What is your number one SHTF concern? You've got a choice of military conflict, economic collapse, online censorship, or digital IDs and central bank digital currency. So get your vote in, because after we've done the SHTF Intel, we'll be coming out of here and we'll be looking at what the actual score was. We might even do it before we come out of the SHTF Intel. So cast your votes in there now. Time's running out, rubber ducks. So let's have a quick butch then and see what's going on with cryptos, because the market is in a complete and utter... For those that haven't been following, you can see it's essentially has been a sea of red. Bitcoin is way below the 20 now. And the market cap fell as well, but it has actually regained. And I'll just spark open the market cap there. So Bitcoin to US dollar chart. Let's go on... let's go candle chart. Can we go 1 minute candles? We can. Let's go 1 minute candles. So this is basically what's happened here. Look, we're going to need to go 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. So this is the destruction. This is what we're talking about, right? This is basically what's happened. Yeah. Can we zoom that in for you a little bit? We can, can't we? Let's do that. So you can see it's been absolute carnage, right? Down to here. Just a bloodbath, and you can see the volume down the bottom. So these, for those that aren't aware with how to read trading graphs, these are candles, which, and you've got wicks on the candles, and if it's green it means it's heading up, and then if it's got a wick on the top it means that it carried on going up and then came back down before that hour, or in this hour. So we're on 1 hour, so each of these candles is 1 hour of trading. Now down the bottom is the volume. Yeah, this is the volume down the bottom. So how much has been traded, yeah? So you can see essentially it's gone... Right, and we did actually get down here earlier on. I watched it live. earlier on. We've got down to about 15.5k. I think the bottom wick got down to $15,600 for some Bitcoiny. Now, I have warned about this for probably about 4 or 5 months at least now. Super bear, right? Because that's the central bank digital currencies. I can't see how it can coexist with the current cryptocurrency market out there, since it's going to be so heavily controlled, the central bank digital currencies, right? They'll decide how you can spend it, where you can spend it, who can spend it, how long you've got to spend it, what you can spend it on. This is what it's going to be. This is why it's in there as one of the most concerning SHTF concerns, is the central bank digital currency combined with the digital IDs, right? So I did warn a long time ago, and of course I'm not a financial advisor, so nothing I'm saying is financial advice, but in my humble opinion, if I had some sheets, well, this is way back here, I was saying it just can't coexist with the central bank digital currencies. So this was inevitable, because this is going to be an orchestrated destruction, right? And essentially that's already starting with FTX, which was a setup by Binance, and then you've got Binance isn't going to buy FTX, in my opinion. So do you know what? Even Binance, which is one of the biggest, well, the biggest exchange, runs the risk of basically having a bank run and going bankrupt itself and being insolvent. It's big trouble. It's big trouble. And you can see this is the actual total cryptocurrency market cap, right? So this is how far it got. And this is the amount of money that's leaving cryptos. Yeah. So this is money leaving it, and a lot of volume of money leaving it as well. But it has started to recover, but we're well under $1 trillion, right? Well under $1 trillion. So that's what we got going on with the cryptos. Of course, you've got your main indices down here as well. You got the wheat, oil, gas, $6.14, gold, 1,755 buckaroonies. What a joke. That should be at least 10 grand. Silver should be at least 30 grand, since there's less topsoil than gold. Then Bitcoin, I don't even know what it should be. Ethereum, I don't even know what it should be, right? It's such a mess. It's such a mess, and none of it is even based on reality anymore, let's face it, right? It's all so controlled, it's all so hokery-pokeried that there's not really any point. The stock market is just made up of, you know, CEOs, stock buybacks, who, you know, Federal Reserve just printing money to buy stocks through Vanguard, BlackRock. You know how it goes. That's how they prop it up, right? Because everybody else has been fleeing the market. No one can afford to be messing around with stocks and shares. So many people have been cashing out of their stocks and even their pensions, 401ks and things that... Well. So what we're going to do now quickly then is I want to look at this grid down blackouts. Now, for those that aren't familiar and those that aren't aware, there's been quite a lot going on in the UK, and there's been an awful lot of talk about grid down scenarios. Yeah. So, what it is... Now, this is from the uk.gov website, right? So this is the official Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, right? From the British government. So, this is the summary of response tools in the National Emergency Plan for Fuel. So this is to do with energy shortages. This includes electricity, fuel, gas, oil, petroleum. Yeah. Now, this is pretty interesting stuff, because this is clearly what is going to be implemented, right? So what it does actually mention here is that in the event, right, so the majority of potential fuel supply disruptions can be addressed by measures to help industry maintain, with industry, I need to zoom in, sorry. These would be deployed by BEIS in coordination with industry and other government departments. However, the government does have emergency powers under the Energy Act of 1976. Which it can use to control supply and demand of petroleum products. And this is what will happen, in my opinion. It should be noted that the use of these emergency powers are reserved for the most severe of disruptions, which it will be. Only when an incident has the potential to cause significant widespread disruption to oil supply will government consider activating measures within the NEPF. So what it's going to go on to say here is that, and these are the measures, right, to maintain fuel supplies. So this is basically what they're going to do, right? Because I said in 2020 what the plan would be, and it would include turning the power off because the currency would be turning into a carbon-based, energy-based currency, at least attached to, and so therefore the Western countries need to have their dependency or their ignorance to energy or the importance of it checked, right? Because in order to get people to invest in the new economy, which is going to be largely based on energy and carbon footprint, they need to realign the Western civilization's appreciation for energy. And the best way to do that is to make people go without it for a long enough amount of time that they'll just plead for it to be given back no matter what. I don't care what rules, I don't care what new laws, I don't care what lack of freedoms, just give me the power back. That's the plan. So, now we know that. We know what the plan is going to be in order to implement that, right? Because it's just logical. So that was what I was saying in 2020, and sure enough, here we are, and the government's been going on and on and on about planned blackouts, rolling blackouts, and all these other things, right? And I'm going to show you what the actual plan looks like with the documentation as well, and that will lead us into what we're going to talk about tonight as the main part of the SHTF Scenario show, with the grid down scenario and how to get through it, particularly in the winter, right? So there's quite a few things going on here, right? But one of the things that's important is this is the emergency code, right? And this is the Energy Act. So what's going on here is that this is the emergency plan for fuel for the British government, right? And your countries are going to be very similar. And it refers to the Energy Act 1976, right? And there's a particular clause in there that gets invoked, right? I'm not sure if it says it on this document. It says it somewhere which one it is. But basically, this is the Energy Act 1976. And you can see here, I've got, this is quite a large document, but I've got to the specific part in the specific part, right? So general control by order, this is what they're talking about. So the Secretary of State may by order provide for regulating or prohibiting the production, supply, acquisition or use of any of the following substances, namely crude, liquid petroleum, natural gas and petroleum products. That's basically all your car stuff, right? Any substance, whether solid, liquid or gaseous, not falling within the subparagraph 1, which is this one, above, but used as fuel, whether for the propulsion of vehicles or for any other purposes, and electricity. So this is basically, this is everything if you think about it. Any substance, whether solid, liquid, gaseous or whatever, and electricity, of course, yeah? And crude, liquid petroleum, not even refined. So basically, if you've got anything, they can have it off you, right? Orders under subsection 1 above, regulating or prohibiting the use of any substance mentioned in subsection or of electricity, may be made at any time, but only when it appears to the Secretary of State to be desirable to purposes of conserving energy. This is what gets invoked. Subject to this, orders under the subsection may be only be made in order of council on section 3 of this act, blah, 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 is in force, right? So, when no order, so just to give you an overview, this is what we're talking about. They essentially can come and take all of your stuff. They can stop you from using stuff. So it says here, when an order in council under section 3 of this act in force, Secretary of State may give directions to any person carrying on an undertaking in the course of which he or she produces any substance mentioned in section 1.1 above as the production and use of substance. That's what we're talking about. That's electricity, that's petroleum, that's oil, that's diesel, that's gas, butane, propane, as to the production and use of that substance. So what's interesting is that when it says, this is key, right? Because when it says the production, if you have solar panels, then theoretically you are producing one of those things on subsection 1, paragraph B, electricity. So that provision includes subsection B, paragraph B, and all the subsections of paragraph A. So basically every form of energy. Yeah, so this is the supply, this is the making of it, this is the using of it, this is everything, man. This is like, they just get to decide. You ain't having it no more. And it goes on, and I don't want to bore you with it. But what's important is this one, right? Now, what this is the electricity supply emergency code, right? It's funny how all these were revised in November 2019. And for anyone who wonders why that date sounds familiar, because it's when all the old tabletop planning sessions were happening, let's just say, yeah. There's a 201 incident thing that concluded in October, end of. This is revised in November, if you know what I mean. So this is what I've opened up, right? And again, this is on the gov.uk website, right? So what this is this is showing how they're going to do the rolling blackouts and to what level, right? So this is a rota plan that's been designed, and they've spent a lot of time on this. So you don't spend this much time on something without the intent on using it. Big time. I've worked for the council. I know what I'm talking about. So when and how ESC will be used, right? Use of emergency powers, that refers back to that. The Energy Act of 1976. I've just read, you don't forget the subsections of that are relevant, right? Directions under the Energy Act, Electricity Act 1989 requiring rota disconnections and associated restrictions, right? So when we scroll down here, and for those that haven't seen this, because a few people talked about it, I brought this up a couple of months ago, and then everyone else started talking about it around the internet. I thought, it'll just look like old news now, but this is relevant today, so we're going to look into it, right? So what this is going to do then is it's going to list, here we go. This is 36 pages long, right? Variable rota disconnection plan. So what this is the table that will describe, and now when you look on your electricity bill, you will have one of these letters in the top of your energy bill near your address. So this is like a location code, A through U, I believe. Yeah. And then left to right, 1 through 18 are the levels of blackout. Yeah. The seriousness of blackout. And then obviously we've got the time periods split up into 8 time groups, yeah, of 3 hours. So 3 8's 24. Yeah. So starting at half midnight to half 3 to half 6 to half 9, and so on. Yeah. Throughout the day. So the idea being, you see, is if they say to you, right, buddy boys and buddy girls and buddy in-betweeners, we are on level 10, right? Level 10 of epic shortages, so restrictions have gone to level 10. If you're, let's say you're letter C, right? It should be S, shouldn't it, for Sigma? So let's say we're on level 10. S isn't even in there on that day, is it? Right? But you'd look at your thing and it would tell you the time that you're going to be turned off. But if you come down to here, it will actually show you the planned days of when your power's going to be off and when it's going to be on. So, of course, the black square designates the days where your electricity will be turned off. Or, sorry, should I say the time period? So don't forget, I split into 8 time periods of 3-hour blocks. So where you see a black block, that's 3 hours without power. So this is level 1 disconnection, right? So as we scroll through, you'll start to see, as we go level 3, level 4, yeah, so level 5, let's stop and have a look at this one. They'll at least get to this one, I guarantee. So again, you look on your bill, you say, what am I? We're S because we're Sigma, so when are we off and when are we not? Looks like Monday we're going to be having a power outage at whatever that is, 6 o'clock in the morning or something for 3 hours, and then later in the afternoon for 3 hours. We're all good Tuesday, Wednesday, so we can charge our stuff back up. And then we're looking like a bad day on Thursday. We've got, you know, nearly half the day is off. Yeah, on Thursday. It's even worse, is it? No, it's just as bad Friday. Even worse Saturday. That's nice, isn't it? So Saturday, they turn you off for like 12 hours, basically. I mean, this is a nightmare because if you look at if we scoot back to the times here, right? These times are like 3:30 till 6:30 in the morning, half midnight till 3:30 in the morning. So if we're in a situation like that and it's down here and it's just going to be turning off at 3:30 in the morning, it means that people's alarm clocks aren't going to be going off. What are you going to do? Wait up until 3:30 in the morning to make sure you've done what you need to do with your fridge and your freezer and everything else you need to do? And what do you even do about your fridge and your freezer? And what are people supposed... This is crazy stuff. How are restaurants going to survive? How are bars going to survive? Yeah, because they can't... Right? So this is level 6. Let's scoot down and you'll see what I'm chatting about, right? Level 9, now it's really getting gnarly. You're basically off more than you're on, right? And this is where charging and recharging is going to be epic. You're going to want battery banks. You're going to want off-grid stuff. You're going to want a bunch of things, right? Not to mention how you're going to heat your house. But as we scroll down, level 11, level 12, level 13. Check this out. Actually, let's go level 15, look. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get to level 15. So now what we're talking about is basically having the power on for 3 hours a day. Now, I'm pretty sure they're going to get to... I reckon they'll get to 12, at least. I think it's more likely it'll just turn off for like 4 days solid. But I think here, the problem you're going to have is filling in the gaps, quite literally, because whatever battery bank you're using, or battery banks, because you're basically spending 18, well, it depends what your sleeping pattern's like, but you've only got 3 hours in the entire day to charge your stuff. So all your stuff that you've been using since the day before, basically, right? You've got 3 hours to recharge it. So this is crazy because it's not going to fix the problem, because you're just going to have massive power surge when the power goes back on. Everyone's going to go, whoa, and just everything's going to be charging, everything's going to be on charge, everything's going to be switched on. The fridges are going to be turned up to maximum to cool them down as quick as possible. Do you see? You'll have all sorts of outages as well, because you'll have like fuse breakers go. I mean, big power stations going boom, you know, transformers, because when you're turning stuff on and off, on and off, on and off all the time with people, what you got to bear in mind, right, is not everybody is in a controlled situation when the power goes off. So let's say, for example, you've got your washing machine going, you've got a microwave doing something, and the kettle is boiling, or the kettle's on. If the power goes off and you're running around doing stuff, you're going to forget that the kettle was left turned on. You're going to forget that the heating or whatever was turned on. You're going to forget that the microwave was left going. Right? And so when the power comes back on, all that stuff's going to be still switched on. In a lot of people's houses, right? And so when it goes on, it's going to go... all the drain on it's going to be so bad. But anyway, let's get out of here. But I just wanted to show you here, look, level 17. I mean, it's obviously so predictable what level 18 is. Yeah. I mean, dark winter. Dark winter. So this is what we're trying to prepare for. Yeah? This is what we're trying to mitigate becoming a major issue for us, is this kind of nonsense, which we know is going to happen, because I told you nearly 3 years ago this is what was being planned, and here we are. So it can't be a coincidence now, can it? Yeah? You get the point, right? So we need to take this seriously, because it's going to happen. Yeah? It has to happen, because they need to realign the Western civilization's appreciation for energy. Otherwise, how are you going to turn it into a currency? How are you going to turn it into a weapon to be used against you if they don't take it away for long enough so that you really start to revalue? And I've lived in little tropical islands with, like, you know, really dodgy energy supplies, and I've been used to it, which is why I have a certain limited ability with, you know, battery banks and stuff like that, because that's been my normal in many countries I've lived in, right? Mel Plant in the house, great to see you. Extreme Focus in the house. Pedigree Mungles in the house as well. Great to see you, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're By the way, Sandy didn't like that one. But are we not working towards solar power? Yeah, but that's no good in the winter, is it? Yeah, and we'll get into that in a second. So this is basically what I wanted to get through today. I appreciate it's been a long one, but of course I've been away out of action for a week or so, 2 weeks. So it's important I got back today with you all and, you know, and sort of caught up really. So what we're going to do now then is I think before we bust out of here, should we have a quick look and see what's going on with the numbers of the votes? So for those that weren't aware, in the chat window, there is a poll that we had running. Looks like we've had 25 votes. So thank you to the 25 people who have voted. And what I'm going to do is what am I going to do, Andy? I'm going to pop them in for you. So what we had was military conflict. Military conflict was 24%. We then had online censorship was 0%. Economic collapse then, we had 40%. So 40%, I'm just banging them in there and then I can show them to you. Now we've got the end of the poll. I can do end poll, can't I? Although I think I just did end poll before I read the last thing out of it, but never mind. Crypto Sam, great to see you in the house. And right, so here we go then. So this is how it ended up then. I think it was... I didn't even write the last one. But basically the economic collapse is what won it. If anything can win that. The economic collapse seems to be the thing that people are most concerned about. So yeah, we can just deduct that from that. So ignore those digital IDs, central bank digital currencies. So it's good to do that poll, and I really appreciate everybody who joined in with that, just to see where people are at in terms of what their concerns are. And I think the concerns are justified. Urban harvesting in the house. No urban harvesting. We're doing lab work tonight. But yeah, basically the economic collapse, you're right. You're very much right for that to be your biggest concern for the SHTF. Because, again, before they can get to the central bank digital currencies, before they can completely bring out their new, reset the stuff that's there already and bring out a whole new thing, you have to really get rid of the old thing first. So it's not going to work until they've done that, which is why, it kind of hand in hand, to be honest. So that's what we were expecting. So thank you very much for joining in with the vote tonight. I really appreciate it to the poll. We'll do a few more of those going forwards. It's great to see where you guys are at with your concerns, and of course we'll do things to address those concerns. Perhaps over the next week or two, I'll put a show together for basically economics in SHTF. Yeah, if I had money, what would you do this with that? What's better to do with it? What should you do with any funds that you've got and things like this, right? So we'll do a show about that, particularly because this seems to be the big topic right now for everybody. So thank you so very much to everybody who joined in with the poll. Do hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And we are going to get into the lab now, so don't go anywhere because we've got so much coming up, and this is where we get into the interesting stuff. So thank you everyone for joining me in the SHTF Intel. Thank you to you in the chat live with us. Gulf Coast Prepper in the house. Great live, just found you. Even better that I found you, my Gulf Coast Preparedness. Great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. I don't know how much you've missed. So we're going to be getting over to the lab, and I'm going to show you some bits and pieces. So let's get out of the SHTF Intel there. From myself, Andy Sigma Prepper. I'll see you on the other side, back in the base camp. Here we now. Thank you, everyone. Here we go. Thank you, everyone. So, I hope you are all feeling a little bit more relaxed now we're out of the SHTF Intel, which is, always a bit gnarly. It's always a bit gnarly. So, thank you, everyone, for supporting me. Really appreciate those of you that are helping to make it happen. What can I say? Totally impossible without you, of course. Totally independent, brand new channel, no sponsors, no networks. No, I've been kicked off everything else, so it's just you, me, and what we get up to. So thank you so very much for those that are helping to keep me rocking. Couldn't do without you. These are the ways you can help. Links in the description if you would like to. Don't forget streamlabs.com/Sigma Prepper if you want to do a super chat, and you'll go ding-a-ling-a-ling above, and we'll give you some respect with gang signs and the letter K. Patreon being a great way to support me, don't forget. VIP access. We've got the after party coming up after the show tonight on Discord for the VIPs. I'm really looking forward to catching up with you on voice as well. Don't forget, you got all sorts of free gifts as well you get as being a patron from as little as 20 cents a day. How can you afford not to be? So what can I say? These people, whoosh, absolute beauties. Thank you everyone, I really appreciate these. Let's hear it in the chat for our patrons. Couldn't be here without you. Thank you so much. This is all I've got, and you are all I've got. So thank you so very much. And of course, if you would like to help, links in the description. But if you can't do anything else, just hit the like button and share it with your friends and family. And in the meantime, should we just get out of here and just get into it, shall we? Right. So enough messing about then. Respect. RESPEK. Tap the like button, please. YouTube didn't censor it this time, and you're asking people to hit the like button, my darling. Oh, so yeah, like I say, we're going to be heading over to the lab area, which I've got set up on camera number 2. Here is where we're going to be. Although I need to get my radio mic hooked up because I've got to go from this mic to that mic. So, and I'm going to be taking you through some bits and pieces. But before I do that, I would first like to just show you some reference bits and pieces before we jump over there. Just to get a few things. What do we want? Let's go 120. So the first thing I want to do, here we go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about then is there's 3 main things here. Well, the main things I want to talk about is with what we've just talked about in the SHTF Intel, with the grid down scenario, with what the governments are talking about, with the outages, with the rolling blackouts and all these other sort of things going on. Not to mention all the shenanigans in between, plus the shortages and the energy, you know how it is, right? So, first things first is I've got a big problem in here in the office because there's no other form of heating apart from electricity in here. So my challenge is to heat this place without any electricity. And I don't have any fire, there's no ventilation, there's windows, but there's not really anything that you can have fire in here or anything like that, like a wood burning stove. So one of the things that I've been looking at is one of these, right? And they're very popular, and I'm sure you're familiar. So these are diesel heaters, right? And this is going to be my solution, basically. I think this is going to be the optimal solution for in here. And it's super, super straightforward, right? The basis of it is, let's see if we can get down to a decent pictorial. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't seem to want to open these up, does it? So what we got here, it's like a PC desktop, desktop PC size, floor standing, yeah? And inside is a diesel heater with a heat sink, and the diesel burns inside it and heats up the heat sink, and then the air blows over the heat sink and warms up. So there's no, the exhaust fumes go out through a completely separate pipe, nothing to do with the air, so there's no, it's perfectly clean, perfectly unscented air, yeah? And you can see there's a little exhaust pipe there, there's a little air filter where it sucks the air in underneath and it blows the exhaust out underneath. But the front and the back is the air intake and the air output, right? So the idea being is you could, if you want to, you can just mount this outside, which is what I'm planning to do in emergency. Mount it outside and you can have just the exhaust going off. You've got the diesel tank already in it. You can use red diesel as well for heating. And it takes about 150 milliliters an hour. Yeah, between 100 and 300 milliliters an hour. And this is 8 kilowatt. Bear in mind the average central heating system in a British home is around about 30 kilowatt, 35 kilowatt is the power of it. So this is 8. So you're not going to heat an entire house, but you're certainly going to heat a large room with 8 kilowatt, right? I mean, these are sort of things you see in cabs and in van life, you know, like motorhomes and stuff like that, RVs. This is what you have. It's just, this is slightly different because it's just arranged in a handy portable thing, which means that we can use it where we need it. So this is £110, which is, you know, $130 or whatever at the moment, $120 worth, yeah. And there's a few little components that I would add on and recommend. So the first thing would be, if you're going to go for something like this, I'd strongly recommend getting a spare pump and glow plug. They're the two things that go first. So the glow plug is something that glows red hot while it's first starting up and just gets that diesel burning. Once it's at the burn temperature, the diesel burning keeps itself burning, and then this glow plug can then turn off. But while this glow plug is heating up for about the first 10 to 20 minutes, it's taking quite a lot of juice. It's taking a good 120 watts of power. Now we're talking about electricity power here at 12 volts, a car battery, leisure battery, that kind of thing, yeah? So you're talking about, you've got a good 10 amps times 12 volts is 120 watts, yeah? To keep this thing going, and then you've got the pump there as a spare. So for the sake of £13, you get a little kit here where you get a spare pump. Make sure you get one for the right thing. This is for 5 kilowatt, but it's basically the same as 8 kilowatt. And then you got your the glow plug there as a spare as well in case something happens, right? Because this could be considered a mission critical device. So I'd recommend getting a spare one of them. You want to consider as well the heat proofing of the exhaust pipe. Yeah. So 22, 24 mils, that's the same as the exhaust pipe, which you get with it as part of the kit. You can see here, there's the tank, that's the main heater there, yeah, and so on, right? So, yeah, you want to get some bandage here and some other means to protect the thermal of the heater. And then we got things like, you know, aluminium thermal tape, and then you've got various ducting options as well that you can go with, depending on how you want to route the air throughout your house, right? And then we've got other options as well. If you're concerned about noise, which I am, for the sake of, again, less than $10, $20, you can actually get a duplicate exhaust pipe here, and there's nothing wrong because there's no back. The way that they're not like a tuned engine like a car, so there's no tuning on the exhaust pipe, so there's basically nothing wrong with having two exhaust pipes in a row. They're only small, right? So you could put 2 mufflers in a row, 2 silencers, and you would get much quieter as well. Other options may be to run the exhaust pipe inside and out through a thing, and then benefit from that exhaust pipe becoming hot as well, and contributing to the heating, right? And being more efficient with the energy that's being produced. So that's kind of what we're looking at here for this diesel heater. So that's the plan, subject to budget. So 110 smackaroonies, yeah? So that's why I recommend, if this is good for you, and you, like me, have got no option of heating without electricity, because our gas pump busted ages ago. So another thing I'd recommend is when we talk about, because we're going to jump over to the lab section in a minute and we're going to get into some bits there. But this is what I'm talking about with a deep cycle battery, right? This is 120 amp hour, yeah, 12 volt battery, which you can charge up and discharge 500-600 times if you treat it well. If you're doing that every day, that's going to last you maybe 2 years if you treat it nicely, right? Assuming you're draining it down a good 50% and recharging it, right? If you're not, if you're not discharging it too heavily, then you're not going to have too much of a problem. So this is what I'm going to be referring to when I'm talking about a 120 amp hour battery bank, right? I'm talking about this because this is the sort of battery that you would need to run this diesel heater, right? Because like I say, it's got to charge up, don't forget, it's got to charge up the coil, right, to heat it up for a good 20 minutes, and then it does the same when it cools down, because it's got to keep the fans running, and the fans obviously run off 12 volt as well. So there is there is an electrical, there's like an electrical cost to the running the heater. It's about 1 to 2 amps, so it's only about 15 watts or something of electrical energy from the battery while you're running it. But it's just when you first start it up for the first 20 minutes, maybe half an hour if you're unlucky, you end up with a bit of an ish, because you need to have your 12 volt, and if you've got no power, you can't just use a power block, right? So that's the idea. So I hope if somebody's looking for... So, Crypto Sam there, how much diesel will you need for runtime? Well, it says 150 to... Well, I've seen a few YouTube videos of people testing, and they reckon it comes to about maybe 200 millilitres, 150 millilitres if you haven't got it cranked to the full per hour. 150 millilitres an hour. So, with an 8 kilowatt heater, you're not going to want to have that going all the time. I mean, the idea is to give it a blast, yeah? And then it will calm down and then give it a blast as and when it needs it. So that would be the plan, yeah? So, but the point is that it's you don't have an alternative is the problem, right? If the power goes out, I have no other means of heat, right? And I've got lots of expensive equipment, which when it goes under a certain temperature, you've got problems with condensation, you've got problems with some of my chemicals that I need for my prototype engineering stuff, like glues, solvents, some very expensive things like that, right? That are part of a... I just got a lot of stuff to protect, yeah? So Mel Plant there saying, I bought a Zybro wick heater and a Zybro, apologies if I'm pronouncing it wrong, laser heater. Both are paraffin. The laser uses electric for the fan on starting. The wick is totally off-grid. Best of both worlds for me. Both great. Lovely. Thank you, Mel Plant, for recommending that. And again, she's got spares and fuel aplenty. Like it. 6 hours per litre. Yeah, something like that. It's not bad, is it? So, you know, and it's easy to store diesel. It's a good, like, 6 to 9 months, more than happily. So, yeah, I'll definitely do that. Right, so we get into it then. So I think what we need to do is to pop over to the lab area. I'm going to need to switch mics out. So, SHTF Scenarios then. Here we go. Prepping 2022. We're going to head over to the lab area now. I was thinking about having a very short break, so we'll be going for an hour, haven't we? Yes, we have. Shall we? Because I could do with a new cup of tea, and I've got no one helping me tonight, as usual, so I'm on my own. So what I think we might do then is have just a 3 or 4 minute break quickly, and we'll come back and we'll be heading over to the lab area. And I've got so much to show you on there. It looks blank at the moment, but believe me, when we come back after the break, there's going to be so much to go through. It's going to be really important things as well. So for those of you that are worried about electronic equipment or setting it up, or what your options are for things like, you know, off-grid power, when the inevitable happens this winter, which I do believe very strongly is very likely to happen, right? And, you know, it's better to be prepared. It's better to have it or not need it than need it and not have it, as they say. So, let's do that then. We'll have a quick short break, and then we'll come back in about 5 minutes or so. So don't go anywhere. What about Calagas heater? Yeah, I thought about that. The problem I've got in here is the ventilation and things. I've got carbon monoxide sensors, which I'd always recommend, but yeah, that is the problem. Where of course the diesel heater, I have got a cat flap in here, right? There's a cat flap. So theoretically, the diesel heater could go outside. The exhaust pipe's outside, the air intake's outside, the fuel tank's outside. You build a little box outside, right? And then all you have coming in is the air pipe, yeah, which is like a tumble dryer type thing, size pipe, 750 mil, 75 mil, should I say, 750 mil. So they're quite wide, and that would just come through the cat flap and just blow hot air through. Yeah, so that's the plan. Robert's got a diet due ready. Got a bit of reverb going on there. Is it? Shouldn't be. We'll see. So what we're going to do then, we'll have a very quick one and then I'll see you guys. So please don't go anywhere. We've got loads more coming up. Get yourself a new drink. Get yourself a new drink and meet me back here. Don't go anywhere. But yeah, I'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes. Just going to go and get the kettle put on. Go and get yourself a refreshment. And when we come back for part 2, we'll be getting into it. And I've got loads to show you. And we'll be going through all the things that you need to know about hooking stuff up in the event of a power down with your batteries, your battery banks, your lights, the heating, lots of options for you to discover. So let's do that then. And in the meantime, I shall see you in 5 seconds. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you in a sec.
God be with you all.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Sorry about that. We're done. I've got my tea. I haven't even brewed it yet. But we've got loads coming up tonight. If you're just joining us, thank you very much. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. We've just been through the SHTF Intel. We've been through all this stuff. Welcome. Intel report, SHTF scenarios. We started getting into with the off-grid stuff. What's going on with the grid being turned off? Very likely for the UK and Europe particularly. And it looks like America for a lot of different reasons as well. Quite clear that's the plan. At least that's how it seems. So what we're going to do then is hold on, I'll just sort in some bits and pieces out. So yeah, SHTF scenarios is what we're doing now. Got extreme focus in the house here. Would love Andy to sell Sigma Prepper t-shirts, hoodies and jackets. Of course you can get yourself a free mug and sticker if you sign up on Patreon as a supporter. So thank you for those that are. So what we're going to do then, we're going to jump over into the lab area where I'm going to be showing you some bits and pieces. I've just got myself a nice cup of tea. I hope you have too. So cheers everybody. Let's take the tea bags out and we'll do a little toast and then we'll jump over to the lab. And we'll have some fun over there. And we'll have, obviously it's the first time I've set this up this week. Over the last week or so, I've made quite a few changes behind the scenes and moving some things around so that we can have these times together a little bit better. So that's the idea. Ghost Cowboy in the house. So here we go then. Cheers, everybody. Welcome. Love, peace and progress to the pack. You know how we do. Love to you all. Right, so should we do it then? Let's make sure the... well, I'm going to have to switch out the mic situation, so bear with me. Okay. So it might sound a little bit different. Let's switch it over to the lab and then just make sure, let us know. Let us know that the... Oh, that's all right. I see what's happening. One. Okay, I see what you mean about the echo. It should be better now. There shouldn't be any echo. It's not supposed to carry sound throughout the SDI. It clearly is. Oh, right, so let me just get the volumes levels okay. Is everyone all right? Just give me a 20/20, 5x5 or whatever if it's all sounding good and stuff, and we will... sorry, I wanted to be on this one. Yeah, so just let me know everything sounded okay in the live chat. 5x5, Daddy Survival, thank you, my darling. So let's get into it then. Let's head over. So, are you coming with me? Let's toodle pip. Right, sorry, I had to unplug. Put my tea there, shall I? Hello, everybody. Right, here's my hands, so we know we're here. Let's get my radio mic there as well. So I've got you on chat. I've just seen Danger Bob in the house, and good to see you, my man. So this is where we're at then. This is where we're going to be doing some bits and pieces. So should we go through what we've got then, and we'll start going into it. Let me have a little slurpy slurp. Right, so first things first, let's just do some familiarization. So many of you have seen this before, but this is just an example. This is a pack that I'm going to be using today for the example. This is a lithium phosphate battery. It's good for about 4,000 recharges, so that's one of the main, one of the key benefits to lithium phosphate LiFePO 4. So this is 12.8 volt, usually sits around 13 volt, which is perfect. 21 amp hour, that's how much juice is in it. If you want to know the watt hours, you times the voltage, the nominal voltage, which is what's displayed, by the amps, so 12.8 times 21, and that will give you the watt hours. There's more than 300 watt hour pack, yeah? And this is an MPPT charge controller that is what I've got to go with this pack, yeah? So this pack is 20 amps, this can charge at 15, so it's quite safe. Lithium packs 1C, meaning whatever this capacity on here, 21 amp hour is, it means that 1C means you shouldn't charge this at more than about the same capacity. So if it's 21 amp hour, you should charge this at 21 amp maximum. But you can charge it very fast like that. That's one of the benefits of lithium, right? But you need a special charge controller, solar charge controller, right? And this is MPPT, maximum power point tracking, so it's slightly more efficient. It makes sure that the battery, it makes sure the solar panel is having as much drawn out. So we're not going to need to use this just now. That's if you wanted to hook it up to a solar panel. But what I'm going to be showing you today is what our options are if we don't have an off-grid solar system, right? So let's just assume, and it's up to you whether you want to just pretend this is the big 120 amp hour leisure battery. It wouldn't really make any difference. But if you do have a lithium pack, you're going to need to make sure that you have a lithium charger for it. So let's have a look then. So first things first, right? Let's go through the bits and pieces that you're going to need, because the first thing you're going to want to be familiar with is just how you can connect things and disconnect things. So this is my own custom e-harvesting kit, right? So I've built this over several months. This was something I was planning to bring to market, but it's a bit tricky because of the supply chain at the moment, right? I'll give you a look inside it. Now this is critical because what you're going to need to make sure you have in these scenarios is a full bunch of all the cables that you may need, all the different types of USB cables. I've got things like crocodile clips to other cables in here. I've got things like USB testers that you can plug in crocodile clips, measure up to 32 volts with an OLED display in here. There's also an 18650 battery charger in here and things like this, right? And various other things. So the idea being, and then we've got this section back here, which has got even more, right? And so the idea with this is the one pack that you could grab and it's got everything in it, right? So you've got big monster crocodile clips here for going onto your battery, yeah? This is a balance meter for multi-cells. We've got things like these big crocodile clips here. So I'm going to show you these because this is important, right? I've got other things in here as well, like a full set of lots of different car fuses, you know, things like the car fuses that you get, big size, small size, plus fuse wire as well. So you've got all the options to repairing fuses. And these yellow plugs here are called XT60s. They're good for like about, you know, more than 60 amps basically. So that's 1 into 3. And I've just switched out my connectors for these because they're very good connectors. They can carry a lot of energy and there's no loss really in them. So it means I can configure things like this. I've now got 3 outputs on this one battery, yeah? But of course, it depends how you're rolling. If you happen to have a battery, that's more like this, for example, yeah. So this is one that I hooked up with some old, what do you call it? Heavy old lead acid batteries, yeah. These are like the sort of things you get in scooters and things like that, right? And you can see I've just put a push button display on there just so I can quickly see what the voltage is at. It's not amazingly high. But the idea of my e-harvesting kit is we've got things like this, and I'm going to give you a list of the things that you want to pick up. So a good thing to have is your crocodile clips. And then I just happen to have put on the end an XT60. You can just get it with what I would recommend as an absolute must, right, is this. So what we want to probably start off with, right, as a bare minimum, is you want a car cigarette socket and you want on crocodile clips, right? Now I like to use mine in a more of a modular way, so it means that I've got things like the crocodile clips and I've got the connector on, and then I've just got a connector on this cigarette, car cigarette lighter, yeah? So it means I can just plug this into there basically, and now with my crocodile clips, we can shove them on there. And again, you would do this on your, just your black on the black and the, you know, red on the red, red on plus. And now we've got a powered car cigarette lighter, right? And so the benefit with this is you can buy then these sorts of chaps, yeah, which is like the USB inserts. And this is a little bit of a funky one. This is 120 watts. You can charge your laptop with this one because it's got USB-C power delivery, PD. And this does up to 100 watt PD and like 60 watt normal USB as well. So you can pop that in there and you can see there, it even got a glowing ring around it. And then we can charge your battery banks, you can charge your USB battery banks, you can do things like this with your insert, right? So this configuration, I would say is your bare minimum, is a lead acid battery because it's nice and cheap, about $1 or £1 per amp hour. So I recommend about 100 amp hour, right? And if you get yourself crocodile clips to crocodile clip, you can get this configuration without the sockets. This is just my own design, right? But you can get crocodile clips to a car cigarette socket, and then you've got options, right? So to give you an example, and some of the other things I've got in this, let's get rid of this big chunky lead acid one. That's why I'm using this blue one as our power source. So let's pop that back in there then. So there's loads of other things in here, but some of the things of note, I've got things like a soldering iron as well. This is a blowtorch, yeah? So this is a blowtorch with gas in it, and there's a pack here that I put together, which has got the soldering iron tip that uses the gas soldering iron, yeah? So I can still do soldering. I've got bits of solder, about 3 different thicknesses of solder. I've got the power connector blocks. I've got some solder infused heat shrink in here. I've got some of that polymer stuff you can just heat up in hot water and it melts and you can mold any shape with it. So there's loads of useful stuff in just that little bag there, right? And then I've got electrical tape wrapped around a small bit of plastic so it's nice and compact, right? And a couple of DC sockets and plugs in there with some terminals you can screw on. So there's basically a lot of things in here that are designed to be as modular as possible, including things like this. So these are very cheap to get hold of as well, which are these DC jack sets, right? And the great thing about these is, again, you can just go from, let's say, for example, this is a good example here. Look, in my e-harvesting kit, I've got a car cigarette plug to 12 volt normal DC barrel jack called 5.5mm by 2.1mm, yeah? So this, the idea of this then is you can take any of these connectors, depending on what your item uses, yeah? You can take any one of these little nasty thin ones, look, you can take one of these out and it's got the DC jack on the bottom, yeah? In we go, job done. So I've got any connector that I could possibly want, and there's your car cigarette lighter again, don't forget, right? So it means that we can reuse. That's the whole benefit of the way I've designed this, is I can reuse this now. Instead of my USB socket, this now becomes my anything's power plug with any of these jacks, yeah, that I've got here. Now I bought a few packs of these and I've put in the ones that are most likely to be used by the stuff that I've got. But it's just to give you an idea to where to start of some of the things to get yourself put together. Because when it hits the fan and you know, there's all the different things you're going to be trying to get figured out and charged, yeah, and stuff like that. So there's a few things like that. I've got other things, because obviously I do this modular system with the XT60 plugs. I've made myself up here a male and female solar power, yeah, MC4 these are called. MC4 male and females for solar panels. So if I come across some solar panels, I've got a male and I've got a female, yeah, or female and male. So I can just, depending on what I need to do. So again, I've always got the option, if I wanted to, I can go crocodile clip out of solar power if I want. You see? And now I can go wherever I want with whatever I want it for, right? So that's the idea. I've got a bunch of stuff like that in there. But some of the other useful things to have, like in here, for example, when we start getting into more talking about efficient lighting, yeah, I quite like these, are quite handy, right? And this is the sort of thing you would use more. Let's get a few of these things out because I want to show you. So this is my little USB tester here. Goes up to 32 volt. But the other thing I've got in here is a super efficient LED, USB LED, right? And this is just a circuit board made in the shape of a USB, but it's really, really efficient. I'll show you what I mean. So here's an example. Let's move this to the side. So the example here is using something like this with like the old bendiness, right? So I keep one of these in my kit. So I can plug that straight into my battery bank. Again, just this is like a 70 watt hour USB battery bank. This happens to do power delivery PD as well. But the great thing of this is I can just put this one in and that becomes like my reading light, for example, yeah? And it's touch dimmable. Let's turn these lights out and you get a better effect on it, right? So we can turn it on. Oh, hold on. And it dims up and it dims down. You see it dimming down? And you can dim it up, yeah? And then we can turn it off. Yeah? I like the way it fades down, it's pretty cool. Yeah? So the benefit of this, let's use some lab equipment here. So this is a USB tester. And the benefit of the USB tester is it means that I can get an idea of just how much stuff, how much wattage different things are using. And so the idea is I can plug this in and the display here will show me how many volts, how many amps and so on. So I can compare the current usage. So as an example, this is just taking 1 watt. 1 watt, that's all, right? But this is a perfect reading light. It's nice and, you know, you can position it where you want with your bendy business, yeah? And taking 1 watt, this battery here would run for like 400 hours, yeah? But again, you can just dim it down and then you can use even less power. And then of course you can recharge your battery bank when the power turns back on or through your off-grid and so on. So I like to have things like that, which are nice and efficient. Super cheap as well. AliExpress, like a pack of 10 or a pack of 5 for maybe 10 bucks. USB, bright enough, bendy USB, job done. You can position it wherever you want. So I like stuff like that, and they're very usable. And of course, by having one of your watt meters, you can see what things are taking or not. So the other thing I recommend is having a sip of tea. And check it out. So let's look at our other options for lighting then. Now, some of you may have seen this before. This is what I usually take for my bushcraft camp, right? So this is a USB strip light, right? And again, super efficient, right? So when the power goes off, these are the sorts of lights I like to use because they're far more usable. So you see, it's like an LED light strip, but it runs off 5 volt USB. But the benefit of this, you see, is you can keep it inside the bag here, and it's actually a diffused bag. So the bag is diffused. So it means that when you plug into your battery bank, yeah, we've got a lovely. The other great thing about this as well is it's warm white. Yeah, so this is warm white. It's like a nice warm glow, which is much nicer to have. So the great thing is you can either have it, you know, as a lantern basically, like this, or of course you can remove it and you can put it up and create quite a lot of light where you need it. It's a really nice light, as I say. And the other thing as well is it's silicone, so it's waterproof. And this takes like really minimal power. Don't forget that small LED light was about 1 watt, 1.1 watt maximum was what it took. So let's check this one out in comparison and we'll see how it compares. Ooh, let's plug her in there. In she goes. So the great thing about this as well is these are actually magnetic. Yeah. little here, don't know if you can see, but so you can spread these around, yeah, and then these will stick where you want them. So at the moment this is running at 4 watts, yeah, this is running at 4 watts of juice, yeah, if you can see that. 5 volts USB, 0.85 amps, giving you 4.2 watts basically, yeah. So again, you can start doing your calculation. If you work out that this battery bank is 70 watt hours, yeah, you can calculate using 70% of the capacity realistically. So if this is 70 amp hours, 70 watt hours, I could say I could easily get 50 watt hours out of that. So if this is 5 watt hours, it means that this would run this for 10 hours. You see how that works? Yeah. So if this takes 5 watts and this can supply 50 watt hours or 5 watt hours, this would last an hour. I hope that's not too confusing, right? So that's your option for things like your rope light, which is much handier to have in your home because again, we can charge our USB battery banks in the 3 hours that the government turns the energy back on. And of course, we can always recharge this through with the e-harvesting kit. We've got all the cables we need, including a super chunky 100 watt USB-C to USB-C cable so that I can go directly out of the high power charge straight into the high power PD input, right? And then I can charge with a cigarette lighter 120 watt this can do, right? So this can charge super quick, and that's the benefit of power delivery, because if you haven't got much power for very long, you can get these things charged super quick, which you couldn't do because lead acid batteries, yeah, you don't want to be using more than you don't want to be charging it to more than 10% of its capacity. So if it's 120 amp hour like the one I showed you on Amazon, you don't want to be charging that at more than 12 amp. So that's the options there, right? for little lighting, that's about 5 watts. Don't forget that little LED was about 1 watt, yeah? So the other option you see, these are good, right, to reduce the power, which is got your DC jack here and your DC socket there, 12 volts, yeah, and it's an LED dimmer. So you can attach that to a 12 volt USB strip, and then you can dim it down and you can adjust how bright or whatever it is, right? And again, you can be more efficient with the power and use far less energy just by dimming it down. But I found this on Amazon. It was super cheap. I don't know how much it is now, but I got this for £7.99, right? But it's pretty cool. This is what they call, this is slightly different. This is cob LED, which stands for chip on board. This is cob LED. It's very smooth and it's also warm white. So let's get this sparked up again. This is USB. We'll put it through the USB things. We'll get an idea of how much juice it takes. It's a lovely light. I've got to say, it's beautiful. Really nice. Let's put these off. So do you see the difference, right? There's no like individual LEDs aren't quite as discernible. They are made up of individual LEDs, but they're about separated by about 3 millimeters. Yeah, 1/16 of an inch maybe. But yeah, so this is 1/8 of an inch, sorry. So this is really nice color. And the great thing about this as well, for just like $7.99, is you've got a digital off on, but you've got brightness. You can turn it down, you see? And of course this is now taking 1.3 watts at minimum. 1.3 watt is what this thing's taking, and that is actually a pretty good amount of light already. I tried it with the complete darkness, right? And it's actually really effective. So 1.3 watt, if I crank this up, this is the benefit you see with having some form of control for the brightness, is if we crank that right up to the maximum, instead of it being a couple of watts, this is now 9 watts. This is now 9 watts, yeah? So this would only last about 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours now. So this light is taking twice as much as that last one, the one I take to bushcraft camp. But you can see it's a much nicer light if that's what you want. So there's options out there, but just bear in mind that different options are going to take a different amount of juice to keep rocking, yeah? So that's all I wanted to say about that. So that's your options for lighting. And that's about the most efficient that you're going to find is the LED strip, obviously, yeah? I mean, either you got lanterns and things, but to be honest, it's not really worth it for the risk. For the risk of causing a fire. So next thing up then, let's show you this quickly, because I know everyone goes on about EMP bags and things. You'll see this is EMP proof. Well, it's not really EMP proof, it's just RF blocking, right? But people call it EMP proof. I haven't really got that much in here. I've got a few batteries which, to be honest, aren't going to get affected by. You ain't got to worry about that. But this is the controller for programming my MPPT charge controller. I've got stuff like an emergency radio in here. Look, the classic one where you've got all the options. You've got wind up charge. There's a lithium battery in here. There's also AA batteries in here. And there's also an internal battery, and it's got solar, and it's got wind to recharge, and it's got all your FM, medium wave, short wave 1 and short wave 2. It's not amazing, but it's all right. I mean, I quite like the FM radio on the Baofeng ham radios, to be honest. But as far as they go, this is all right. It's good to have, just so you can say you've got it. A couple of things in there. Again, don't really need batteries in a Faraday cage, Faraday bag, but I've got some coin cells as well, just happen to have them in here. And things like 18650 and Eneloop sort of lithium ion battery recharger, AA's, AAA's, 18650 lithium ions and so on. Nickel metal hydrides as well, this does. And of course, I always opt for the ones that can run from 12 volt DC jack. So look, make sure you buy things that don't have a wall plug with it, right? And then of course you can use your normal DC jacks to power things like your battery chargers and everything as well, right? So that's basically all that is. And you can always tell it's got the silver material. The other thing as well that comes included with my e-harvesting kit that I designed in this pocket here. Oh no, I lied. Is that somewhere else then? Oh no, it's here. I've already taken it out. So I include this as well with it, which is another RF blocking pouch, but this is just for a smartphone. Yeah, so I tend to use that for smartphone. That goes in the side of the e-harvesting kit, right? So I'll bung that back in there. And that's for a mobile phone to go in there. So it's a pretty comprehensive kit, as you see. Now, one thing I want to get into is heat, right? Creating heat with battery power, because it's quite a difficult task, I will say. It's not as easy as you think. It takes a lot of juice. A lot of people don't really appreciate just how much juice it takes, right, to create heat. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you today with a little few things that I've got put together. And there's some, obviously, for those that don't know, I'm a prototyping engineer, electronic engineer, and everything else. So I tend to make a lot of my own stuff, do a lot of tests. But let me give you some options of what's out there, right? When it comes to trying to keep yourself warm in the winter time. So this is a heating pad. They sell these as being hand warmers and things, and it's got like USB cable on it. But I tell you what, it's a proper joke, because this cable is so thin, there's no way you're getting any power out of this. But to put it in perspective, right? In fact, I've got a temperature thing here, haven't I? So let's take the rest. I'm just going to take a temperature reading of it. Yeah. So we're talking about 27 degrees is the standing temperature. 25, let's call it. Yeah, 25 degrees, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to plug that into the USB battery bank. This just runs on USB, don't forget. Nothing fancy, yeah? Power it up. So, this gives you options. This is 5 watts it's pulling here. 4.6, 4.7 watts is all it's pulling, right? So again, you know, 70 watt, that's going to last 10 hours maybe, yeah, doing that allegedly. But the problem is it's so pitiful. It's so pitiful, right? And I'm not surprised, because this cable, this USB cable, is an absolute joke. If you've got thin little wires like this, believe me, you're not going to be getting much energy through it. It's going to have so much loss in this cable, it's not even fit for purpose. If I take a temperature measurement on this again, just a laser reader, 31, 32. Down the bottom, 37 it's got to, down the bottom, 38, 49, 52. So down the bottom here, it is actually getting a little bit warm, yeah? It's getting a little bit warm. But it's not really anything at all. And like I say, when you only pull in 4.8 watts, 4.8 watts isn't a lot of power in terms of when it comes to heat. You saw what 5 watts can do with light. You can light a whole light strip with 5 watts, but when it comes to heat, forget about it. I can't even feel it. Even though it says it's like 33.8 degrees, right? 36, right down the bottom here is 45 maybe. What about the back of it? It's all the same, it's very thin. Nah. So that's about all you're going to get out of that. And to be honest, it really isn't worth it. It's so not worth it, it's not even funny. I can barely feel it even in my hands like that, right? So, and you can buy things like car seat heaters, elements. That's what this was originally designed for. So I've made a slightly modified version. I'm going to be doing the same modification to this, and I'll show you the modification I've made. So don't forget, we were just getting 5 watts out of this. 5 watts worth of heat. That's it, right? So the version that I've been playing around with is part of my zombie apocalypse survival case, which is a big Peli military style case. And it's going to have hand warmers built into it, right? As part of the off-grid regenerative energy system is going to be inside, including the lithium phosphate, right? So what I've done here is I've removed this nasty thin cable, which is just a joke, right? And I've soldered in proper silicon 16 gauge, nice and thick silicon cable with connectors. These are XT30s, they're just slightly smaller versions of those XT60s I like to use that are well proven. And so I've got the option for 2. So of course I've already made the 2 that will be powering both heating elements, but I need to just modify that with the new connector, which I need to do. It's all cut to length and everything, right? But what you'll notice is a complete difference, right? And I've epoxied this because they've used hot glue on these. So the hot glue just starts melting when it gets up to temperature. So I took all that off with some alcohol spray, and I've redone this with epoxy resin. I've put some Captain tape on there, just electrical engineering tape, which is, you know, like they have on satellites, you know, space satellites basically. It's thermal tape for electronic engineers. So I've got loads of different types of that. So I've just put some of that on to give it extra so it can't short circuit, even though it's got epoxy over it. But the difference in this is epic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to power this. I'm going to power this through this 12-volt battery bank. So we're not going to use the USB for this 5-volt. I'm going to be cranking this up on 12-volt, and what I've got here is a little motor controller. I've got loads of things like this for prototyping, but this is a motor controller which just can vary the current, the amount of current that I'm pushing into it, and what it ends up being is a temperature controlled heating pad, right? Is the idea. And this is just a current meter, a watt meter, so we can see how much juice it's using. So let's get it plugged in and we'll simulate a 12-volt battery. And we can see here 13.3 volt, that's all good. So let's flick it onto watts, yeah? Amps, watts. So this is showing watts now. So if I turn this on, you'll see the LED comes on and we're at 11 watts, yeah? But what I can do is I can crank this up to 20 watts. I'm not sure if you can see the LCD here, but I can crank that up to 20 watts, look. Right, let's get it to exactly 20 watt. There you go, 20 watt. And this is already 44. Oh, this is centigrade, by the way, I do apologise. 59, 56, 54, 61, 57. I'm just taking different registry points. 65 degrees. This is going to be hot to touch in a minute. 75 degrees. This is up to 75 degrees centigrade, and that is pretty nice and hot. And yeah, oh, that's quite nice actually. Oh, you don't want to squeeze it too hard. So I'll tell you now, this is 20 watts. 19.7 watts it's rocking, right? Now bear in mind, when we're using the original, this is how it came, with a crappy little USB thing and a tiny little cable. Yeah, that was 5 watts. 20 watts, now you're really doing something. Let's see what she's saying. 54, 82 degrees, 84 degrees, look, 85 degrees, 87, right? So this means business. This means business. So the idea being, you see, yeah, about 60 degrees all over, even at the end here, we're at 60 degrees. So that's too hard, that's too hot to hold now. That's too hot to hold, but we're taking about 20 watts, right? So this is the example of the difference between 5 watts and 20 watts. But as you can imagine, 20 watt, you know, you're taking quite a lot of juice. So you're not going to want to have that on for long, but I'll tell you what, it is super, super effective, yeah? She is absolutely roasting. But you can buy these on eBay really cheaply, just as like if you look at car seat heating pads, yeah? You can buy a kit and it's really cheap, but the whole thing is about 50 degrees, look, all over, which is really nice and toasty, man. So imagine having 2 of those, right? I mean, that could run on this battery pack for a long, long time, right? So that's the idea. That's what you're going to be looking at for a heating pad. Yeah. And it cools down really, really fast. So this is kind of what it looks like. Yeah. Just an element that goes in here. It's basically just a wire that short circuits, yeah. But it's just a controlled resistance to make the amount of heat pretty ideal. So this is your option. But the thing about generating heat is it's very, very costly. Very costly for juice. And so here's your option. If you need to heat water up and you've only got 12 volt DC, you can buy a 12 volt DC kettle, yeah, which looks like this, yeah. And again, you know, the end of it did have a car cigarette lighter socket plug, but I switched it out for an XT60 again. It's just my bag. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bung that on there, right? And we're going to put some water in here. Just a little squidge. This takes 1 litre of water, right? So I'm going to put like, what's that? About a cup of tea's worth. Yeah? Cup of tea's worth of water in there. What's that? 300? About 600, 500, half a litre. There's half a litre in there. And what I'm going to do is throw the switch, right? And you can see 181 watts. 181 watts, yeah? Which might not even be, this is 15 amps it's pulling out of here. 15 amps, yeah? So it's, what are we talking, 180 watts of juice, right? This is ludicrous. You're only going to be able to use this this will only do this for a couple of hours constant, right? But the benefit is you're only boiling the water a couple of times. But this is going to take quite some time on 12 volt, right? You're never going to get the same amount of juice as you're going to get out of the mains outlet. This is the key, yeah? You're not even going to start feeling that to warming up for probably about 10 minutes, but then after 20 minutes, you'll get about half to a litre of water. But this is where you need to start being concerned, because to draw this amount of juice, yeah, that's a lot of amps, yeah. You need really thick cables like this, yeah. Otherwise it's never going to happen to be putting 180 watts out of this battery. Now of course if you've got the big 12 volt leisure battery or thing, it's the same kind of thing, but I'm just saying that these are your options open to you for heat and for cooking. And don't forget, with MREs or things like this, and also with hot water bottles are super handy and efficient as well. So that's an option, right? So we'll move that aside for the time being. So another option is which again I keep in my kit, is you can buy these. So these are like small kettle elements that are designed to run on 12 volts. So again, they come on a cigarette car lighter socket. And again, I've switched it out for the 18650 just to give me options. So don't forget, I can whack that on crocodile clips if I want. I can whack it onto my car cigarette lighter option if I want. So there's things like this. Now this is theoretically slightly more efficient than the kettle because, again, it runs on 12 volt, but this is just, you know, this is good for a cup, yeah? And you see it's got a nice clip, convenient clip there. It clips onto the cup, right? So you bung your water in. And then we can hook this up to your battery and we'll see how much juice this is taking. Boom. So 150 watts. So it's nearly as much as the kettle. Yeah, it's nearly as much as the kettle in something just as small as this, right? And believe me, this starts getting hot quite quick because it's much smaller. But to heat up water takes an incredible amount of energy. Don't underestimate the amount of energy it takes to heat water, right? That's the problem. Just make sure we're all right. 12.4 volt. Bit of sag there, but it's fine. 12.2 amps, and we're running at 150 watts. So you can already see bubbles starting to come up. But this is going to take some time, again, to bring this not to the boil. I don't even know if it will actually bring it to the boil, but it will certainly heat it up enough to make a cup of tea or a soup or something like that. So this is about last, you know, like sort of worst case scenario options, to be honest, is what this is about, because you need to be super efficient. Ow, that's hot. The water's not hot, but the element certainly is. So that's doing a great job, that is. But I'm a bit concerned, you see, about these are so cheap and crappy. This cable's actually getting warm and soft. Yeah? It's actually getting slightly warm. So I am planning to take this apart and put a new cable in that's at least silicon, so it's not going to melt. That's the benefit with silicon wire, is it doesn't melt under temperature, right? So it's amazing when they give you these wires. This is an element. Oh, yeah. I had this problem before. So you need to be careful with these things, right? Because this is why there's going to be so much hitting the fan when it's hitting the fan, is the fact that people aren't going to be used to doing this stuff. They're going to be short-circuiting things. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be dropping their candles, knocking over their lanterns and things like this, yeah? So this is the option, right? These are your options. There's not many. Ow! It's actually really effective. I mean, I don't know if I can take a register off water. Well, probably. Yeah, it's giving me about 33, 34. I got this one as well, might be a bit better. Yeah, 32.4, it's giving me exactly the same reading. So yeah, it will take a while to warm up. It's actually warm. It's sort of like lukewarm, you know. I'd call that kind of like nearly skin temperature, right? It almost feels like there's no water in there, if you know what I mean. So it's only been a few minutes, but like I say, the amount the rest of it and the cable is heating up, it just isn't ideal. Even all the way through to here, this cable's warm, right? Which is not a good sign, because it means that all the energy is being lost in the cable, yeah? This heat wants to be in the water, not in the cable. So this is totally under-engineered, sized gauge cable. So I just wanted to make that point, because I see this a lot, and I end up having to replace all my own cables, as I demonstrated with the heat pad was a good example, right? Because this cable is just never going to cut it for anything when it comes to heat, because heat is super difficult and expensive when it comes to electrical energy to generate. So don't underestimate that. Let's see if so it's on 42 now, 41.9 degrees centigrade. So it's heating up quite nicely, 43.8, yeah. So it's quite impressive, 45. But we'll crank that off now before the cable sets on fire, which it won't. It gets a bit hotter than I'd like it to be honest. So yeah, so that's the idea with that. I'll leave it in there just to keep that cool down, but that is actually getting reasonably warm already. And how long we've been here? Just about maybe 6 or 7 minutes that's been in there, and that's already starting to feel like it's making a pretty big impact. I might even have to dunk that in my tea to heat up my tea. Cheers, my darlings. I hope you're having fun. So here is another option. This is just another prototype that I built as a heater, which may go in my zombie apocalypse case. I'll be doing a video dedicated to my zombie apocalypse case. It's going to have like Faraday box built in. It's going to have battery bank built in, along with some connectors and things and pockets. So this is a slightly more means business heater. And again, just an element with some fins. And I've just got a PC fan here. I've cut some carbon fiber plate here, just thin as hell. Just to funnel that air through. Yeah, I don't know if we're sucking or blowing. Are we sucking or are we blowing? I don't know. Let's get it rocking and we'll figure it out. So this is going to be loads. This is 100 and, well, that's not too bad, 120 watt. I thought it was more than that, 150. Oh no, it's getting up to it, look. So yeah, 150 watts. So this is 150 watts, and all it is 160 now. And this is getting hot really quickly. This element here, right? Oh, that is already untouchable, right? And then this PC fan, yeah, basically blows the air through. This is sucking from the top, fresh air, and blowing it out the bottom. And that is already actually pretty nice, yeah? Sorry, I'm just fanning myself. Fanning myself with the hot air, but that's already quite effective. But we're talking about 200 watts. This is 200 watts of juice, yeah. 12.2 volt that pack's brought down to, so nearly 15 amps we're pulling here, right? So I want you to appreciate 180 watts to get this amount of heat, which isn't even that much. But you can put your thing on it, and it's actually quite nice. I can imagine if it was cold, that would definitely make a difference. But with this fan, I mean, if I was to get a temperature probe on that heating element, it's going to be epic. It doesn't like reflective normally. No, it's not even going to be able to register. 64, 78. No, this one's better for metals actually. I bought this one for metals. Yeah, it's giving me about 85. 88. That's centigrade again, 90 degrees centigrade, so that'll boil water instantly. Yeah. And you can soon tell if you get some water and flick it on, if it goes. Yeah. Yeah. I'll do it to the microphone so you can hear it. They'll tell me in the chat if you can hear it. I'm reading the chat next to me. But yeah, this is pretty severe. Just obviously it's a prototype, so there's zero health and safety with this at all. That's how I roll. But yeah, so this is and that was me getting the fan with my finger, not burning, by the way. But it is a lot of heat coming out, but again, it's just unsustainable. You can't be pulling 180 watts. Yeah, you can't be pulling 180 watt for long. Not on a battery like this, and not even on a battery like the off-grid battery that I showed you, the 120 amp hour. But this is very effective, and I've just made this myself. I appreciate that, but I just wanted to give you some indication. This is 12 volt, 200 watt heating element, and I've just put a PC fan on there, just linked into the same 12 volt, job done, right? And I've just been playing around to see what I can get out of whatever wattage for heat, yeah, out of this. I've only got about 1200 watts of solar panel, so I don't have too much, yeah. Let's just disconnect that now, which has been on a while. So that is about 200 watt, and that will stay there. That will stay there, heat, you know, so again, you don't want that to touch anything for a bit. It's going to be hot for a while. So there's all sorts of dangers around here with stuff like this. When we're doing like heat, this is why I say to you, I think the diesel heater is the way to go, right? The diesel heater that I showed you earlier is definitely the way to go. And of course you are going to need to have your off-grid battery, right? So some sort of lead acid battery, right? Whether it's a couple of scooter batteries like this, you know, connected together. And then you can use your crocodile clips with your car cigarette lighter socket, and then you've got options, right? But what you're going to need to make sure you do is lead acid batteries like to be kept charged constantly. They like to be topped up all the time. So what I recommend is your cheapest option. This is the grand finale scenario, like what I would say is your minimum options, right? Is what I think you want to get, right, as a minimum, to give you maximum options would be some kind of configuration of crocodile clips that can open up big enough to fit onto typical terminals of a car battery, yeah? Onto your, and again, you can buy these off eBay, Amazon, just literally crocodile clip to car cigarette socket, 12 volt, right? Job done. So you've got options now. If you buy yourself a lead acid battery, a leisure battery, about 100 amp hour or more, yeah? And then you've got your options with your, you can get a car cigarette to your DC jack cable, and this will have, some of these will have a fuse inside, so you need to make sure you've got spare fuses, right? Of course, my e-harvesting kit comes with a bunch of options for fuses and things for that event, so you can always, and worst case scenario, I've got like the fuse wire. You just make your own if you have to, yeah? Just short circuit it basically with a fuse wire. That'll do it. So one of your options here is, like I say, get yourself your DC connector blocks. And then you've got like all the options you need with your car cigarette socket cable, barrel jack. You get the barrel jack converter plug sets, yeah? Job done. You've got all your options there. Plus, of course, you've got the options of your USB, wherever that's gone, over here somewhere, is it hiding? That's my, I've lost it now, where's it gone? Where are you? It's like my 120 watt, oh, it's back in the harvesting kit. Here we go. So then you've got options for, as well, using that same thing for your USB car cigarette lighter option, which is good, and they're so cheap. This one isn't cheap, this is very expensive because it does 100 watt PD, so you can charge laptops and things like that with USB-C, as well as quick charge 3 and various other normal USB type A, and then you've got another PD USB port as well. So you've got all the options there, just even with that, to charge most of your stuff off. And if you've got something like the lead acid battery, not necessarily this one, but like the 120 amp hour leisure battery, get yourself a trickle charger, 12 volt trickle charger, car battery charger, something like that, and just leave it on charge. You know, make sure your crocodile clips red on red and red on plus, black on minus, right? And just keep it plugged in, and then when the grid goes down, you know that you've got all that energy stored in that battery that you can use for whatever you need, right? Whether that's just a case of, like, you know, like we talked about, you just want to go hardcore, boom, right, that's it, grids it, the fan, on the car battery, or, I mean, a car battery is not ideal. You want a leisure battery because they're designed to be charged and discharged. And look, we're in business already, yeah? So I can, but the idea with this, you see, is it'd be more, I would use this with my big fat juicy USB-C to USB-C 100 watt cable, yeah? What I'd be doing is recharging my battery, my USB battery bank, yeah? So, yeah, now we can just charge my USB-C PD battery bank. This is 23800. But it's USB-C PD power delivery, which is important, right? So then this is the configuration you see. This is an example of use case. Car cigarette socket USB converter, decent cable that's thick as hell, don't scrimp on cables. Recharge your battery banks off your battery that you've bought from Amazon for £100, $100, right? And then you've got options to recharge this when the power does come back on. This stays charged all the time at home on your AC outlet, so when the power goes out, this is fully charged, ready to go. And this is gonna last you, I mean not this, but you know, the big black ones we looked at earlier, is gonna last you a long time. It's gonna last you a good couple of days on its own for your main key stuff, right? And that includes things like charging your ham radios. And don't forget, your ham radios are wanting to have the normal the normal DC 5.5 by 2.1 mil DC jack. That's what your ham radio Baofengs want. 12 volt. It says 10 volt on it, but it's actually 12. So again, car cigarette socket is your friend, and you're all good, right? This is about £7. You can get crocodile clip with a with a car cigarette socket for about $10. And you can buy, you know, one of these. You don't have to get a super duper 120 watt one like I've got here, but you can get one of these for $20, a decent one. You're done, right? Trickle charger, your main battery, that is the absolute bare minimum, I would say, that you will need, right? So, and then once the budget permits, you see, you can then start getting into things like charge controllers with solar charge controllers, and start having options to keep it perpetually charged even when the grid does go down, right? So it's about giving yourself maximum options. And I'm sorry that it's such a mess in here, and I'm sorry it's become so untidy, but I hope that I've tried to, I hope I've illustrated a few things today with your options, and some of the more simple options, like this. Yeah, a little lantern. And again, this is cool because you've got options. Yeah, so you can recharge this as well just by human power, convert calories to volts. But yeah, this is really nasty. I mean, it's not, but it is. It won't. It's not going to do too much, but you know, it's only got a bunch of LEDs in there, and they're not even warm white, which I prefer. But it's more about the fact that it's. Oh, sorry, I didn't even have it on. I didn't have it on brightest setting, did I? But so it's not amazing, yeah, but it does something. But what's important about this is the fact that it's rechargeable on the normal connector. I say normal, it will be one of these, which is the benefit of having the kit, right? You can recharge it with that, yeah, but it's also the fact that you've got the option to recharge it. Yeah, you can see the LED light come on there when I start rotating it, yeah. So that's to show it's charging, generating energy. Yeah. So I'm not a massive fan of you know, kinetic energy conversion, stuff like that, but it's kind of all right, you know. It's kind of a handy lamp to hang up and use and things. We've got so many things going on here. I hope everyone's having fun. Let us know in the chat if it's all coming through okay, and you know, the quality is okay, because of course my camera's not the best over here. It's just not in the budget at the moment. I've got a lot of equipment that's let me down recently. And then just to close off on this subject of power, the other thing, of course, is security, which we'll be doing a whole show dedicated to that coming up soon. So you want to be able to have options for your running your cameras as well, because as soon as the grid goes down, a lot of people's CCTV systems ain't going to work. And these aren't IP cameras. I don't like IP cameras because they send the camera data across the internet and back to you. If there's no power, there's no internet. So with no internet, your cameras ain't going to work. So these are different. These do transmit wirelessly on Wi-Fi signal, but they don't go across the internet. They go straight to a box that picks it up, and then you watch it on a display. But the benefit of that is that they only need, that's just a reprogramming port, but again, they just need the usual 12 volt DC jack. That's all they need, right? So by having the cable, by having the, don't want that one, do I? Let's do that. Right, so what we can do is we can power that up, yeah, I wonder if it will show you the infrared. No. So yeah, that basically, you can power that up as well. So it means you can power your cameras, and you can still have your CCTV working with your 12 volt. So 12 volt is your friend. Car cigarette socket, if nothing else, is your friend, because you can just get so many things that run on 12 volt car sockets, including, don't forget, things like your little cup elements, yeah, which are ideal, right? I mean, you can literally heat that cup up in about 10 minutes, right, with your car battery, and it just gives you maximum options. And this is still warm. This heating element that I designed is still, it's still pretty toasty. So these are some of the options that you've got, which I think is important for you to get an idea of what the options are out there and what some of the limitations are. Like I say, when it comes to trying to generate heat with battery power, I almost want to say forget about it, because the amount of energy you need is almost not even feasible, right, to the average person. So hence diesel heaters and gas heaters, I think, are the key. No, you don't need a regulator to shut off the battery when fully charged, Extreme Focus. The chargers will do all that for you. And again, when you've got just like your normal trickle charge wall wart or something like that, make sure it's a proper flooded battery one. But this will keep your battery topped up to about 14.4 volt, roughly 14.4 volts, and it will just keep it there constantly so it's fully topped up. Because bear in mind, lithium phosphate packs are different, but lead acid packs, yeah, lead acid batteries like car batteries, their self-discharge rate is about 4%, 5% a week. Self-discharge rate. And if a car battery, a leisure battery, goes below about 12 volts, then it's done. It's done. So don't let it go below 12 volts. You need to make sure you're, get some sort of a voltage reading device, which I had here somewhere that comes with my kit. This one. So here's another option. This is, you can pick these up pretty cheap. This has got USB power delivery and quick charge 3 USB type A. And again, I've just modified this with my own XT60 connectors that I like, and nice and secure. But the good thing about this one, these are nice and cheap, is it does include in it, look, it comes with a little voltage display. So it gives you a handy readout to keep an eye on your battery level. And when it goes below a certain point, then you need to know to turn it off and not use it anymore, because otherwise you're going to do long-term damage to your battery. And when you try recharging it, you're going to have about 50% less capacity than it used to have. Yeah, so there are your options. Now I'm going to be going into a few other things on other occasions that are sort of somewhat connected to all this, but I just wanted to give an overview of just the expectations of what your options are for lighting, for heat, and what the realistic, realistically what you can run for how long with what is what we're looking at, right? So I think we're done on this side. So I think we're going to pop over back to base camp quickly. And I think have we got everything here? I think we're all sorted, aren't we? So let's head back to base camp then. I'll bring my tea with me. Thank you everybody for your patience. And we're back. Here we go. Oh, you get to see me again. I plug myself all back in. Okay. How's that then? We should be back on this mic now. Test 1 1. So I hope everybody's okay. I hope you've been enjoying the show. Let us know what you think of having the other camera set up, if it's handy or not. Live prototyping, yeah, live burning myself as well, and medical med kit. You want to see my med kit? Well, I'll show that next time. I can give you a sneak peek, I suppose. It's in my zombie apocalypse battle box, which is down here, where it should be. All nice, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of my medical kit. Put that together after 20 years of bushcraft camps. So, We won't shoot back over to the lab because I've just switched the mics over, but just to give you a quick sneak peek, and I'll do a proper show on this. But this is what my that's just one of those oximeters and that. Oh, I got some other things in here, but that's basically what my medical kit rolls like. There's too much in here to even start to go through, and I've put this together over many years of bushcraft camp, survival camp, wild camp, taking out all the stuff I never use and only having in there the stuff that I always use or always might use, basically. But it's pretty well thought through, and like I say, it's not like these preppers who's never been out of their comfort zone. They put a medical kit together, what they think, because they've never actually gone anywhere and done any axing or bushcrafting or, you know, spoon carving before. And it's only when you're doing like year after year, all the time wild camping, that you start to realize the things that you need and the things you don't. And I've seen a lot of preppers medical kits, and they're pretty much a joke. They're pretty much a joke, and you only got to look at the contents to know that they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. So it's a bit of a concern, because people are selling kits for like $250, $300 that have about one thing in there you'd ever need, and the other stuff is just a waste of money. Not to mention those $250 kits you can pick up for about $60, exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same components, right, for $60. So whoever's charging $250, $300 is ripping you off. So I'll be giving you a complete heads up as to how I put mine together, what's in it, what's included, what's not included. But that'll be a whole total different show. But today we've been looking at the issues with the heating, the challenges with heating in the dark winter scenario. And of course, earlier on I made mention of the diesel heaters, which I just think is the most efficient heat that you can get, cost per watt, with the advent of no power. But do remember, the reason I've just been going through all that over in the lab area tonight is because even the diesel heater is going to require you to have some DC power, 12 volt DC power. There are 24 volt versions as well for those running 24 volt off-grid setups, but most people, 12 volts totally fine. And that's based on, don't forget, this is what I was referring to here, the big chunky 120 amp hour deep cycle leisure marine battery is the kind of thing that you're going to be able to do. You know, you'll be able to get the heater started with that a few times before it needs to be recharged. And of course, solar's your friend as well. But these are your options, and they're not vast. Yeah, there aren't a vast number of options, to be honest, out there, because heat does take a lot of energy. People don't. This is what I'm saying. The world has got no idea what energy is, how much it takes to do stuff, right? It's quite significant, and people underestimate it, and this is where people are going to come unstuck. So I hope, if I've done nothing else tonight, I've given you some idea of what's feasible and what's doable and what isn't, in terms of with a certain amount of power. I just don't think you can be too... You just can't expect too much from it unless you're prepared to put a lot of money into it. That's the key. Yeah. Just make sure everything's all right. I think we are. Okay, sorry. Just turning off my radio mics because they're beaming out needlessly. So I tell you what, I do apologise. I do apologise for being offline for a week or two. I've had quite a few significant things going on behind the scenes, which I don't really want to get into because it's just not fair on anyone. But it's been a struggle. I've been under attack yet again for nothing. So, you know, Susan's going to do what Susan's going to do. Just put it that way, right? And I'm kind of sick of it now. But what are we going to do, right? They don't like me. They don't like you knowing the things I know. I get it. I get it. But we'll work through it the best we can. I hope I've been at least somewhat useful to at least someone tonight throughout this video. And like I say, I know it's been a long one, but I just wanted to set the groundwork with some of the things I've been playing around with. because, you know, the people out there calling themselves preppers literally don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about, and it just is getting so annoying now because people are, some of these are fatal mistakes that people are telling people to do, right? The stuff that they're telling people to buy is a joke. It's really annoying, and I sit there, and this is like, I'm censored, right? I'm shadow banned already on this channel, right? And I can't, yeah? And then these other people have got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they're just waffling on about what everyone else is saying, just copying everyone else. They don't do their own work. They don't actually do their own numbers. They don't test their own equipment properly. It's whoever's giving them the best kickback. And again, that is the benefit of being here. This is why, because I'm 100% independent, no sponsors, no networks, no paid adverts, no monetization, no external funding, no affiliates and no partners. This is the important one, right? No one's paying me to tell you the things I'm telling you. This is from my own experience of like more than 25 years of prepping, right? And living in, visiting more than 40 countries around the world, living in many of them as well. That's how you know what happens when shit hits the fan. So if you would like to help me carry on doing what I'm doing, because I've got no full-time job, no part-time job, no nothing, this is it, and it's nothing basically. So I don't know how long I can keep going, but if you think there's a way you can help, then do appreciate it. These people have already. Thank you so very much to our Patreon members. I couldn't do it without you. Really appreciate you. And of course, we're going to be having our Discord after party with the VIP patrons tonight. So if you'd like to join us on Discord, you can do free of charge. Link is in description. But for our VIPs here, we're going to be having our live chat as part of the Patreon crew. So thank you to those that sorted me out on Patreon/Sigma Prepper. Free gifts, mugs, cups, behind the scenes videos, after parties like we're going to have live next, and all sorts of other things. So what can I say? Thank you everybody that's helping. And if you'd like to, here's your links. Description below, and if you can't do any of that, and of course just to hit the like button is really good, just to add a comment in, share on your social media. That's about all we got left now, isn't it? So thank you so very much for those that are helping me. Really appreciate it. Let's get back to basics. So let's have a look. Ansett girl in the house, my darling, good to see you. Turn the kettle on to heat a baby's bottle in our shop with generator running and it overloaded. Always remember that, and how much juice heat takes. Absolutely, Ansett girl. Don't underestimate it. So yeah, I mean, I've just sort of glossed over some things tonight because I just want to lay some groundwork, but I'm going to be putting some more structured things together as I was supposed to be doing. But like I say, I've just had a complete disastrous 2 weeks. So I do apologise if I've let anybody down. But I do intend to make up for it, and it wasn't my fault. I'm not even going to say that. You all know whose fault it is, and I can only work as much against the tide as I can. So I hope you enjoyed the being able to go into the lab area tonight, because it was just something I set up a few days ago when I thought I need more room to do things, just to have options, right? Because I've got some big shows coming up where I want to get into some pretty heavy topics, some things that need to be talked about. So thank you so very much, everyone. I do hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed you being here with me. This was the show, Prepping 2022. So SHTF Scenarios, Howls and Growls we're going to skip over. That's usually when we get into the, we say hello to Hugo, the lion bear, comes and says hello. And yeah, and Q&As and stuff. But we'll skip straight to the VIP after party on Discord. Links are in description if you would like to sign up on Patreon. From as little as 20 cents a day. Can you afford not to, is the question. So, I've had a wonderful time this evening. Love the lab and learning tonight. Good stuff. Live from the lab. We should do a show live from the lab in it. Thanks for the great info, says Netrum. Thanks for the lessons. Always ready for real, usable information to survive. Thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. So many great people in here tonight. And it's so lovely to have you all with us. Thank you, Netrum Design. Mel Plant as well. What a super duper bunch of peeps you all are. And literally couldn't do it all without you. So I really appreciate your support. Right, so from me, I suppose this is until the next time. And I need to get a schedule sorted out. And I'll be catching up with the VIPs after party on Discord now. And I'll be filling you in a few of the plans and things what I've got coming. But do make sure you're subscribed. Do make sure that bell notification is set, and it will avoid YouTube trying to pretend that I'm not doing videos when I am, because it likes doing that quite a lot. It seems to quite like unsubscribing people as well. I've had many people telling me that YouTube has been unsubscribing them from this channel. Like I say, I'm one of the most censored people on the internet at this point, left on YouTube now. I guess I just go, this is how it's going to be for me going forward, as it always will be. So thank you, Susan, for that. Love you. And I guess that's about it. So thank you so very much. And what can I say? I've had a wonderful time. I hope you've had a wonderful time. And as we like to say, as we exit out, love, peace, and progress to the pack.